Hi, Get Unstuck Nation. So today, my guest is the one who would able to help you if you are someone who thinking about started business or you have already started but you feel like, hey man, it's not yet taking off the ground. So let me introduce Tracy Brinkmann from Dark Horse Schooling, who will help you today to get started and understand how the way business really work when you just started. So thank you for joining Get Unstuck Radio today, Tracy.
Hey, my pleasure. And I think what we say here at the Dark Horse Entrepreneur is if you're ready to start, restart, or kickstart your business, we're the ones you want to talk to.
Oh, so start, restart, or kickstart. So let's start it from there.
Yes.
What are
Yes.
these differences?
Well, usually when someone wants to start something, they have this great idea, right? Between their ears, they're like, oh my gosh. And here's what I usually find is there's someone that sees a hole in the market that they can fill. They, oh, I've got this great idea that will solve that problem, a new product, a new process, or some sort of coaching opportunity, right? So they're wanting to start what they just don't know, right? I mean, you can go to YouTube and you can spend hours and even days, right? Going through video content on how to do this, how to do that. But it's the piecing it all together that really can be the stumbling block for a lot of folks. So that's that start piece. It's like, okay, where do I start? I have an idea. Do I go to Fiverr and have them, do it? Do I build the team? Do I do it all myself? There's all these different ways that you can, and there's really, if you think about it, there's no wrong way to do it, right? We all know stories of folks where someone bootstrapped themselves with the first, $20 or $100 to create $1 million business, and other folks that took the time to build a team and started their business that way. So it really, that starting piece depends on where you're at, what your idea is, and a lot of times what resources you have available to you. And that's not always cash as a resource, people, as a resource, your access to sometimes just a laptop and the internet.
Yeah, I agree. So let's say you may have seen some of this loop before, like someone just like started and then paused that industry or something and then started a new one again. In this
Mm-hmm.
case, do you call it restart or like starting again, or you say that okay, this is to
It's
reborn?
yeah, I think it's usually a new start. I think I see a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and usually the newer ones, they get caught by that bright shiny object syndrome. So for instance, let's say, and this is, I won't name any names so the no one will be embarrassed. I seen someone that wanted to go, hey, I want to start a podcast. Okay, great. Right. I can help you start a podcast. Let's go do that. And they got everything together. They got the assets together. They sat down and did some of their first initial audios, pieced it all together and got it ready to go, and even launched it. Right. Had a great launch. It was doing well. They hit the top 100 in a couple of different countries. And about 2 months later, they're like, yeah, I think I need to change this podcast. So it's almost completely flipping it on its ear. And it really, I think at times like that, it depends on what the cause of this change is. If you find out what you've started, you really don't like to do, then you're kind of doing your audience a disservice if you keep doing that stuff you don't like to do, because they'll start feeling that lack of energy and they'll go somewhere else and you'll be left there like talking to yourself. But if it's because you just saw something else and you're like, ooh, I want to do that too, well, then I think you need to get the first business, or in this case, podcast, going so it runs on autopilot. So all you have to do is show up, talk in the microphone, and then everyone else does something for you. That way you can take your new freed up time and start the new project, whatever it is. But the starting and dropping is a bad habit that I see a lot of entrepreneurs get into. And they keep saying, well, I keep trying things and it never works. Well, it's because you usually get it to that first resistance point. We're all going to hit some wall, right? Oh my God. Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And it's getting past that first, second, and third wall. When you start, that's when you start getting, now it's easy. Now I feel you get in that rhythm and things just start flowing for you. And then you start building a team that does all the things that you don't want to do. And then you just add your special sauce to it. And now you've freed up the time where you can either drum up more business or add a new entity to your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So you mentioned about the resilience, or resistant. Yeah, resistant, sorry.
Mhm.
So what that would be, and how, like, any signal or anything that they can feel like this is coming, that I may stop this, though I may
Mhm.
like feel like, hey, this may not work yet. However,
Yeah.
you have to go through the rhythm. So what is this kind of signal looks like?
The signal is going to be different for different folks. So, and here's what I mean by that. For someone like me who enjoys the marketing piece, enjoys getting out and engaging with other people, the signal will be something like, all right, there's this tough, very delicate little numbers thing. Like I'm not a big fan of sitting down and doing the books. I'll just be honest, I'm not. So I would start feeling that resistance every time I need to go through the profit and loss statement, right? Especially if I know if it was a bad month. If it's a great month, we all like looking at our bank account, right? It's when you have one of those bad months where you just, I don't want to do it. But if you find someone to either A, teach you, right, the good, the bad, and the ugly, or do it for you, right? That way you're like, I don't even want to deal with it. You go do it and then tell me what levers I need to pull or push to make my business work better. Um, so, so in those kind of scenarios, it's going to be different. You may have someone that is really operationally sound. They love processes and fixing things and writing up documents, but you put them in front of a marketing team, they just like, they go blank. So the signals are going to be different, but I think one uniform thing is you're not going to want to do it. That's usually whatever that feeling is. You're like, man, I don't feel like getting up and doing this part, whatever that part is. You liken it to having different hats. You put on the marketing hat, you put on the CEO hat, you put on the salesman hat, and it doesn't quite fit. It's a little snug and it gives you a headache. And you're like, I don't like this hat. Well, that's the resistance, whatever hat you're putting on, and you start feeling that snugness. Work your way through it until you're able to build the resources to either get really good at it and get comfortable, stretch that hat out, or pass that hat off to someone who that's their comfort zone and they just rock at it.
I think they might want to do like a SWOT analysis for themselves, though, to find the strength. Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're not even, from my experience and like from the experience that I have been talking to other people, to know yourself, actually the last thing that you're able to discover, right? Self-awareness is something that people really like, I don't know all the time, like I'm not sure or something like that.
Sure.
And yeah, to know what you are good at and to know what
Mm-hmm.
you not really like doing is something that you have to find as well. And usually you will discover that along the process, right?
Yeah, that's a huge point you're making right there. I think one of the things, and who was it that wrote the book, Know Your Why? I forget the gentleman's name. I think we need to step back from that. And knowing your why is very important, don't get me wrong. But knowing who you are, I think that is step number one. Because if you're saying, well, my why is because I want to be comfortable and have a nice house and be able to afford to send my kids to college, very powerful whys. But if your who is, I want to be a CEO of a 500, a Fortune 500 company, well, then you probably don't want to be an entrepreneur, right? Because there are two different types of people. Usually you don't see a CEO of a Fortune 500 company going and turning around and becoming an entrepreneur. You could see one going the other way. You know what I'm saying? So knowing who you are, really, I think, is the step number one, because then you can find out your why. And in knowing who you are, you'll usually find your audience inside of that at the same time, because usually your audience and inside your audience is your tribe. Those people that are like, oh my God, I love everything you do. Just here, take my money. They're usually you yesterday or last year or 5 years ago. And so knowing who you are helps you identify who you can help a lot faster.
You mentioned something very important. So
Okay.
let's talk about that. If you want to be a CEO for a big corporate, you may not start your own business. How is that really like? Let's tangle that. Because many people, though,
Sure.
they want to be CEO, they didn't know that it's actually the, how to say that, ladder of management level in the corporate hierarchy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I mean, CEO in general, chief executive officer, they may not have to be the same industry. They just have the same skill that able to bring the company towards the goal executively. But then to have your own business is something different. Let's talk about that.
I think for me, a good CEO is someone that looks further into the future than your average Joe, right? They're saying, okay, here's where the business is today. Here's where we want to take it tomorrow, next year, 5 years, and 10 years down. And then they start seeing the path that will lead them along that way, right? Where if you're your average entrepreneur, you may not want to be a CEO, right? You may not have inside of you the CEO goodness. I think we all do. We just have to nurture it, because maybe you're a marketing guy or you're an operations guy, right? So your CEO needs to have a different mindset. Or if you're an operations guy, you could be a COO, right? You're like, oh man, I can build the operations. I can make this vertically integrated or horizontally integrated, and here's how I would do it. Well, that's not your CEO. That's your CEO. That's going to someone completely different. Now, if we jump over to another seat where we were talking about, I will never be the CFO. It's just not going to happen. I have zero interest in the numbers. I could sit down and study for years. I would know how to do it, but I would suck at it because I have no passion for it. Where a friend of mine like Harvey, he loves numbers. Man, he looks at them and says, oh, I see it right there. Meanwhile, I'm going, where? You see what I'm saying? There's something in them that says, they feed off of it, like data, to give me data, right? So it's those different paths that folks can take. And like you were saying, usually you'll find it as you're going along your entrepreneurial journey. You may go into it thinking, you know what, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to build it up, and I'm going to sell it. That's one path. Or I'm going to build it up and I'm going to run it and I'm going to be the CEO. But as you go along the path, you might find that, you know what, I prefer to be on the sales front. Well, now I'm going to be vice president of sales or president of sales or whatever level that is up there. A completely different path where you'll hire somebody to be your CEO and CFO so that you can do what you are really passionate about. That's the best way to do it. Unfortunately, we have seen, and we've all know the stories, some folks don't do that because they let their ego hold them back. Like, it's my company, I'm going to be CEO, even though they suck at it. And the company ends up, sometimes stumbling, or you just going belly up altogether as a result.
I agree. And it's okay to be CEO at the beginning. It's okay to be the decision maker at the beginning, because moving forward, you will know exactly what you don't like to make decision on. And that's totally the process, right? That we are enjoying building the business, because
that's that personal growth you were talking about earlier, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, exactly. I think that's very important that like people need to understand. Me myself, for example, you have to plan though. Like once you know that, okay, right now I'm still have to be the decision maker, but moving forward, I may not. I just want to be a founder and then like keep reselling the contract, something like that.
Right.
So yeah, it depends on what is your goal is. I think apart from knowing who you are, also what is your goal? The what, another WH question is something
Yeah.
important, but the why will always there to be like your passion and like
Yep.
the fuel that like send you further. But all of these can be changed from time because like we're living in a society that's always moving. We're living in, yeah, like this
Yeah.
COVID art is still here or it's gone right now. I'm confused.
This episode is sponsored by Mutita Clothing, like what I'm wearing right here. So if you are a petty sized lady who are looking for high quality apparels as well as a neat cutting and premium pattern, check it out at mutitaclothing.com so that you can be simply elegant by no time. Let's get back to the episode.
I think one of the greatest examples of that is if anybody listening thinks about who they were, let's say as a teenager, and I don't care whether you're 21 or 18 or 50 plus like myself. If you think about who you were at 14, are you the same person today that you were when you were 14? Generally, the answer is no, unless you're only 15, right? You might be very much like that. But if you're 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, you're thinking, well, no, I'm completely different. I think different things. There's a few things I think the same way. Well, your business and everything should be the same thing. As you move along, you age and you get better and you get smarter and you get wiser. And so things will change and the world around you is going to change. So if you don't change with it, you're literally backing up. That makes sense.
Yeah, indeed. And that's why you always start a new thing because you're confused. And then you probably come back to the same loop again and stop.
Yes, there you go. See, you got it.
Yeah. So let's talk about after they feel stuck, after they have tried many businesses and haven't take off, what type of personal development they should acquire at that part?
It depends on where they're going. I think personal development is good to be doing throughout, right? So if someone is starting a business and they're hitting those walls, the wall could be sales focused, right? You're not getting on the phone. Well, I don't like to get on the phone. I want to use emails. Okay, well, emails are easier, but they're less personal and they have different response rates. Where if you can get someone on the phone and have a conversation just like you and I are having, you can feed off that energy back and forth, and usually you'll have a better conversion rate. But that takes a little self-confidence. So you want to build your self-confidence. Well, that's usually a little bit of a mindset. And sometimes maybe let's go a different direction and say, you know what? I'm doing good. My business is doing okay, but I need a new idea. Now, I'm not saying let's drop this one and pick up a new one like we were talking about earlier. I'm saying, okay, my business is doing good. How do I grow it with the next idea? Well, you need to go and learn how to develop that idea. Or you want to grow your business by becoming an authority. Well, let's learn some authority marketing. So I know we're going past to the personal development world, but I think personal development and development in your business tend to intertwine together as you grow as a person, like we were talking about 14 past, right? You're different. Your business will take those same leaps and jumps forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So it leads to my, let's say my company motto, because we help people build like a boutique team. And I believe that your business, that I mean, in general, my business, for example, have to be built around my lifestyle. Because I feel like if it's not aligned with me, though, I will feel like this is not right for me. Like some
Right.
decision-making part or some team members are not aligned with our culture or the way we do things. They maybe have a better path forward, and we are very grateful and support them along the way. So,
Sure.
um, however, this is something that maybe we have to know the end goal, right? But maybe the end goal have to be clear, but no need to be like very precise. What I mean is that, as you mentioned, are you going to sell the business? If you're going to build to sales, everything have to be clear, documented. Like if it could be best, could be like ISO standard, because like there will be audit before it's being acquired.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
important, right? What about if you want to build a family business for passing forward to your grandkids or something? That also have to be clear that what they have to do moving forward. Do you want them to be intern first to know how it's like
Yes.
working from ground up? I think this is something that they have to design, right? Along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like building a good life, right? It's goal setting. Goal setting 101. I mean, I've been teaching goal setting to clients and people and companies since the 90s. And while what I teach is a little different, the principles of goal setting, like you were talking about, are pretty much the same. Where do you want to go? And you start chunking it down. I'm going to use an Anthony Robbins term, right? So you start chunking it down, and then every day you're doing something to step forward. Just these little baby steps, man. Every single day. A lot of times I'll get on a Facebook Live and I'll ask those that might be listening, what one thing, just one, what one thing do you want to get done this week? Because if you can get one thing done per week that leads you towards whatever your big goal is, man, you're 52 steps ahead by the end of the year. And usually most folks can get that one thing done by Tuesday. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do the next thing. Now I'm 53 steps, and then it's 55, and then it's 100. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you want to go in with goal setting, which is a big thing, and then you start working on your mindset. Right? You get your head straight, and it's not about getting your head straight. It's getting yourself into the right space for what it is you're trying to accomplish. All right, man, we're going to go into this tough part of the season, which means we need to grind away at X, Y, or Z. We need to do more marketing. I got to put my marketing hat on and get in. So how do I get myself in that right mindset? We need to do more authority marketing. We're not seen as the authority in our space. So how do I become that authority inside and then portray that outside, right? What kind of morning rituals do you have? That's huge. And this is inside your business and outside your business. And every CEO, to loop back what we were talking about earlier, very successful entrepreneur, we're talking about the Andy Frisellas and the Gary V's of the world. They have a morning routine. It doesn't mean it has to be your morning routine, but you need to have one. You need to have some routine that when you get up in the morning, but after the first hour or so, you are ready to rock and roll and just take on the world, whether that means reading your Bible, going to the gym and working out, whatever it is for you that gets you pumped, make that your morning routine. That's part of your success habits and so forth and so on. So, I'm babbling on. You're going to have to rein me in here.
No. I mean, that's good. I think Mike Young sent me some YouTube video about, I forgot already. Maybe he's an author. I forgot his name, sorry. But
Yes.
he have his daily goal to write 6 pages a day. And he would do whatever it takes to complete that. So when you chunk it down to daily basis and find your own, some personal goal on daily basis that feel like this will give me success every single day. It has no need to be a big one, but it can be done every day. That's you have to find that, I think.
Yeah, and it makes you feel good inside. It's like, man, you could have a bad day, but that one little thing that you said, I'm going to get that done. You did. You got it done. And there are things that sometimes you can just stack together. For instance, a couple of times a week, I work out every day, some form or another. And some of those days, it's just getting on the treadmill and walking for an hour or whatever. Okay, well, as long as I'm walking, doing nothing else, let me put in an audiobook or some sort of motivational speech or something. So now I'm doing 2 things at once. I'm learning while I'm charging up my body, or I'm getting motivated while I'm charging up my body. You don't have to do them separately, right? You could do them together. You could be out there mowing and learning how to market on Facebook while you're listening to, someone do that. You could be out there mowing your lawn, right?
I'm one of the person who cannot do that. I
No,
don't know.
really?
Yeah, so this is something that I like. What I enjoy is to be near the water. Like water is
Mhm.
something that trigger me to get new creative idea. I have to say though, I'm not a creative person in general. Like I would not usually come up with the new ideas or something that would solve the problem right away sitting here in front of the computer and work.
Right.
I have to go out and like do other things like sport, like water sport, something that related to water or even shower. So if I do other stuff like exercise and I listen other things to learn, I personally cannot do that. I mean, see, it's
Oh, okay.
different.
And
Yeah,
see, and we're all different, right? For
yeah.
me, I can do that. It works for me. I can be mowing the lawn. I can do that. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I think one of the things is if I'm out like walking my dog, right? I can't do it then because I'm too focused on. I have a big dog, right? So I've got to keep her reined in, right, and check her out. So there are times when your focus is dispersed, and it totally makes sense. And getting out there in nature for you is water. For me, it's the woods, right?
Mm,
If I'm out there in the woods, the creative juice is just there flowing. You get these little ideas like I need a pen, I need a piece of paper, I got to write it down.
yeah, yeah, I agree. So, yeah. So in case anyone want to work with you, where can they reach out to you then? Like these stuff are something that people, I mean, if you find like get rich quick scheme, this day would be easier to find out, but how you really get rich, like just started to make money first or start taking it off, man, it's actually many puzzle to put into. So where can they find you?
They can find me at darkhorseschooling.com. Or if they want to go over to Facebook, I know not everyone's out there searching for websites. Everyone's on social medias these days. I'm on all the socials. You can find me on Facebook under the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, the name of the podcast, or search Tracy Brinkmann. You'll see my beautiful face with the beard. Same on the socials, Instagram, whole nine yards.
Okay, so everything will be in the description, everyone. So thank you so much, Tracy, to joining Get Unstuck Radio and help people get unstuck today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me aboard.
Hey, thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe here or here. And this is the previous episode. Check it out. See you next time.